Okay. That's not great, but I'm sure they're working through something. Oh. I think I might have broke my laptop.
Did you turn 4.5 minutes to fix it?
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's about 4 minutes, 15 seconds to fix it before the projector.
Thank you.
Then I count down.
Oh, okay. I hear it.
I'm sorry, back to
Okay, this works. All right. Well, so now that that's up, and now that I got that set up, I guess we can start the presentation or discussion. Like I said to a few people who came in earlier, this is going to be more of a discussion rather than a presentation. So I'm going to be looking for input. Don't worry about whether or not an idea sounds crazy or anything like that, because in all honesty, the crazy ideas are the ideas that change the world, as a lot of people keep saying. So, again, this is a Future of Esports panel. My name is Maurice Sharp, or Strike Alpha if you look for me on Twitch, or Strike if you look at me on Nintendo Network for playing Smash 4. So I play Smash 4, I also play League of Legends, kind of interested a little bit in Counter-Strike. Pretty much I'm interested in all of the sports, or all of the games that are being considered as esports right now, where they have massive tournaments, massive publicity, things like that. So I figure if we're going to go about the future of esports, we kind of might need to talk about a little bit of the past and a little bit of where we are right now in terms of like the community. So I'll go ahead and get started. If my mouse wants to work. Okay, so esport, like the first ever video game tournament happened at Stanford University in 1972. It was with a game called Space War. I don't know if anyone really knows about Space War, but it was kind of like a dogfighting simulator where you have two ships. There are two actual players playing against each other, asteroids, trying to fly around shooting each other. If you crash into a star, you lose. If you get shot, you lose, that type of thing. And that tournament brought in a couple hundred people, and they were actually just playing for a year's subscription to Rolling Stone magazine. Like a long way from where we are right now, where some of the pots for winning some of these tournaments are millions of dollars completely. So, with that being the first tournament, it took 8 years for an organization to come through and start to try and manage some of those things. They were called Twin Galaxies. They kept high scores. They were the ones who put high scores for Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, things like that in the Guinness Book of World Records. Yeah. So they worked with them to kind of set up events and kind of set up tournaments to kind of make it a little more organized in terms of keeping track of who's the best and who's on their way up. And then there were some TV shows. So around this time, if you were actually good at a game, you could potentially end up on Time Magazine's cover. Like it happened a few times. So it seemed like people were starting to recognize that this wasn't just a niche genre of things to do, but it was something that they wanted to make more socially acceptable and have it more integrated into society as a whole. So I don't know if anyone here saw any of the episodes of like Starcade, where people would like play video games against each other, and then it was kind of like Jeopardy, except you're actually playing video games. That came out during this time and had a pretty decent stint. I would say there have been a few other shows that happened, but they don't really generate all that much traction. Not really sure why, but that's just something that's going on. So, if we move to the present, the first time I really heard a lot about esports and whatnot was on G4 when they were doing Madden tournaments. It's kind of straightforward. You are playing a sport against other people, that makes sense. But in terms of games being out in public, definitely changed in terms of genres. There's less emphasis on sports games and more emphasis on things like FPSs like Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, MOBAs like League of Legends and Dota 2, real-time strategy games like Grey Goo and StarCraft, fighting games like Smash 4 and Street Fighter 5, collectible card games. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that abbreviation before, but that's what Hearthstone is. And we all know how Hearthstone is going with that. So pretty much any genre of game can become an esport if you actually set it up the right way. And one of the benefits to having an online game, other than being able to play people across the world without actually having them in the same room, you have multiple camera angles. I don't know if a lot of people have been keeping track of like League of Legends and what they've been doing with some of their camera angles during at least the starts of the matches. But you say I like watching this guy called Peace Pigeon on YouTube. He used to over edit all of his stuff. And some of the things that he was doing was actually changing the camera angles from where you actually see things happening. League is starting to implement that into their professional streams. So you're starting to get a lot of different camera angles and you're starting to see a lot of things from a lot of different perspectives. It's definitely the same thing with the FPS. You got plenty of people on a team, you can instantly jump to that person's camera and kind of figure out what's going on. Or you can set up cameras in specific areas and kind of watch what goes down. And there have also been rank ladders, like the same stuff that Twin Galaxies did back in the 80s. Now there's a lot of those going on. League has its own ladder, Street Fighter's got its Elo system too, Smash 4 is trying to figure that out, I think. But that's the thing. Everyone recognizes that this is kind of an important aspect of esports that needs to be actually taken care of. So we start to look more about what's going on in Wisconsin. There aren't too many big organizations within our state. One organization that just kind of started with Ranker ESports. They are into team building, fantasy esports, and kind of coming up with a calendar for events. So if there's a specific game that you're looking for and you want to know what tournaments are going on, they'll have that stuff on their website. If you want to find people for creating a team for a specific game, they'll give you that opportunity to do that. And UWM, UW-Madison, and Marquette are kind of, they have organizations, but I don't know if any of you guys are currently attending any of those schools, but I honestly don't hear too much about what they're doing outside of their actual campus. So, in terms of expanding interest, because that's kind of like a really big point for, you know, if we want to make esports into something bigger, we gotta bring more people into it. How does everyone go about like explaining the sport? So if you have your parents and they come in on you and you're like, hey, leave me alone because I gotta focus on this match because this is, if I lose this match, I'm gonna lose a division or something like that. Like, how do you go about like explaining that to other people when they're either watching you play and you're really focused on it, or you're watching like some stream on Twitch and they're wondering why are you watching this when you can go play it yourself? Like, anyone have any stories that they can share or anything like that?
Well, for me, what first got me interested in like competitive Street Fighter was way back. I watched this video of Street Fighter Third Strike. It's Daigo, Hard versus Justin Wong. He had that crazy parry back, and I was like, holy shit! And I just watched video after video, and I just got more into it. And, you know, when you see people who play at a high level like that, it inspires you to want to play too. So,
if you're wondering about what he's talking about, I actually have that video later on in the presentation. So don't worry, because when he said that, that just completely reminded me of my first feelings when I saw that video. And I didn't even know you could do that. I just played Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom a lot, but I didn't really pay too much attention to it. But literally seeing what happened in that 10-second clip area was enough for me to say, okay, this is serious stuff. You say anyone else?
A big thing with I do a lot of League of Legends, and my entire family is huge into sports, football fans, fantasy football, and that. And when I was explaining to my brother what it was, I was kind of really into talking to him, like when I'm watching Twitch and I'm playing League and I'm watching these other games, that's equivalent to him throwing on his TV and having his phone open for the stats on all of his teams so he can track his players and everything. That was the easiest conversation to say, look, I'm playing, here's my League of Legends fantasy football draft, here's the teams I picked, I'm just going through it right now, this is me out on the field playing with the buddies at the park, and that's just playing with them.
Right.
That was definitely the easiest way to go.
I agree with you. For League, I was watching the season 2 or season 3 Worlds, right? And I was just really into it. It's getting all hype, yelling to myself.
Yep.
Right. And I was like, what are you yelling about? Like, well, this is like my Super Bowl.
That's exactly what happened. I got at 42 in Milwaukee for the season 3 championship, and the whole bar stood up and roared at this play. And my brother was there, he was a football guy, and it was just this huge shout. And I turned to him and was like, now I get why you shouted the team.
And it's stuff like that that is really, I don't know, it gives me warm feelings thinking about it. Does anyone else feel comfortable sharing anything, or should we move on? All right. So, other people are also talking about credibility, like whether or not esports is a real sport, or if a sport is something different than an esport. Stories like that definitely make it easier to kind of associate the two with each other because, in all honesty, they are the same thing. But for some odd reason, people still kind of have apparently a negative idea on whether or not a video game can be considered a sport. So in terms of addressing stuff like that, how would we kind of like go about doing that? Should we stick with Twitch streams and really focus on online sources like Twitch, YouTube gaming, and things like that? Or should we try and make it to a TV station like Counter-Strike is doing with TBS? They have a league going on there. In all honesty, I kind of prefer the Twitch route because I figure with the way things are going right now and the way that TV is kind of slowly on the decline, Twitch is going to be the place to go. If we make that foundation really strong on Twitch, when everything finally goes online, everything will be pretty much set up. But not everyone has access to a computer. So
I think it's a difference of like the difference in the people who use TV and the people who use Twitch. I think people who primarily just watch TV and then stumble upon, oh, is this an esports tournament?
yeah,
What's this? I don't know. I think they're less likely to get into it than someone who's like looking for something like on YouTube or something.
yeah, you bring up a strong point. Like, I don't know whether or not my parents would consider watching some of the things that I end up watching. Like, I definitely don't think they'd stay up till 4 a.m. to watch like the World Championships in Korea or something like that. But at the same time, I think bringing some of that community into ours would possibly give us access to a lot of different things that we wouldn't have access to like now. Kind of like with the next point, endorsements. Do we kind of like stick with like in-community stuff? Like if I have specific hardware that I use, like if I use Logitech, should I just stick with Logitech, or should I go out of my way and try and get General Electric to try and sponsor our team? Something like that. Or would the situation arise where all of a sudden Doritos and Mountain Dew are only associated with gamers? Like, how would you combat a semi-negative attachment to esports with something that you really kind of want to invest time to get extra money into?
The way I actually look into it, because my mom recently had some surgery, and literally the doctor looked at her and said, Nick, when you look at your surgeon, ask him if you played video games as a kid. because the majority of surgeries these days are actually electronic.
Ooh.
So if the way I look at it is, because literally the stats say if the surgeon played video games as a kid, he has a higher success chance.
Oh.
So, and a lot of things are electronic these days, and they're continually becoming more electronic. So, eventually, esports are going to become, basically, esports are that if you do this, you're better, do better with electronics. Therefore, electronic things are better for you, better for society. Same thing with sports. It's your physical, but that doesn't necessarily correlate in today's highly advancing society.
Right. That's kind of scary to think about. Like, my surgeon, if he doesn't know how to DI on Smash 4 all of a sudden.
There are still physical surgeons,
Right.
but it's getting more and more electric.
Okay.
Okay, man, so I'm just blaming it on the
Anyway.
So it's like what he was saying, you know, esports are real huge and they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you know. But if you look at things like Worlds and things like Evo, and you look at the finals and stuff like that, the viewer count is always so high.
Yes.
It's like tremendous. Like you never see, you know, during like top 8 or something on like Evo, you never see like 100,000 people. It's low. Like it's like eventually that number's just gonna rise up and we're just gonna have these huge events and it's gonna be incredible.
Like, in all honesty, I'm kind of getting excited about that type of stuff because I really want to go to Worlds this year, like at least for League of Legends, and I have no idea what to expect when I go there. I have no idea.
Expect it to be crowded.
Yeah, I expect it to be crowded, but at the same time, I just kind of, I don't know. I grew up playing a lot of baseball and basketball, so going to like those games been kind of like really interesting. But I feel like League might be a little different in terms of how excited I get. Because, I don't know, I feel a little bit more of an attachment to it. I don't know. That being said, it was a good leeway or leading point into the next question. How should these events be organized? Should they be, I don't know. I know with basketball, every few minutes they have timeouts where it's forced and they do sponsor ads and things like that. I know that right now some esports are actually trying to like build some stadiums. I know if you go to South Korea, it's pretty ridiculous in terms of the fact that they actually have stadiums dedicated to things like esports and whatnot. Should we start to possibly look into things like that in terms of like building specific locations for specific sports, or trying to, I guess, come up with a way to bring more sponsorship into that, or? Yeah.
It's like eventually it's going to become, I mean, it's pretty serious now, but it's like eventually it's going to become so serious where a lot more money can be invested. It's like you said, it's possible in places like California, like, you know, the coasts where a lot of esports stuff is very big. It's possible in places like that, you know, they could build like a specific stadium or something like that. I mean, once things get bigger, let's see why they go through that.
Yeah. I'm gonna say one thing that I found out this, I guess, in January. I went to PAX South, and how many people know about Geico Gaming? Yeah, like apparently Geico got into esports and sponsored a Hearthstone tournament or they sponsored 3 Hearthstone tournaments where every day the winner won a completely decked out laptop and $500 to spend.
I honestly thought you were going to say an insurance policy for a year.
That might be in there too, we just don't know about that part. So,
You won. Here's your life insurance for the next year.
so if that's the case, you got companies like Geico getting into it and trying to organize tournaments, and then you have things like ESL going on. Should there be an overall organization for all esports, or should there be organizations for specific genres, or should it be even more for specific games? Going by that.
I think this could be more of like a general organization based on the company running the stadium, picking the venues and the game teams that want to play it, and that's kind of the direction it's going to end up heading.
Oh.
I'd like to see where like Company X is your League of Legends company across, or like your organization across the whole U.S., but it's probably going to be more this group pick this stadium, now we're going to do Rocket League and League of Legends and like have, so and hopefully that all spans out to where you have these little individual pockets that can get together and have the, North America championships and everything.
Right, okay,
That's kind of the trend I've been seeing.
okay.
I kind of could see it almost be a case of the company that produces the game is its own organization. Kind of like League of Legends, they self-balance the characters and whatnot,
Right.
the champions and whatnot, and also they currently organize the tournaments and whatnot. So it's kind of a case of, it would make sense because ultimately they have the end say what happens in the game.
Right. Okay. Okay. It's like, yeah, that kind of makes a lot of sense. That also is about to lead into a future slide, talking about some of the stuff that's going on with League. And as soon as you start talking about specific companies with specific games, I immediately thought of like Samsung White.
Yep.
And how Samsung essentially sponsored the two best teams at that point, and then all of a sudden League had to come through and say, all right, we can't do this anymore because we can't just have one company paying the most money to recruit all of the best players. We don't want the Yankees to form in our sport while it's still growing because that limits the growth. So, I play a lot of Smash 4. I stream Smash 4. I'm, in fact, going to actually participate for the first time representing this HorizonLine Gaming on Smash 4.
What's your main character?
Ike. Like, I play Ike, I play Corn now, and depending on how I'm feeling, I play King DDD. Like, it is really depending on how I'm feeling. So, but I play those games, and got this video here. Daigo's come back, as you mentioned earlier. It kind of describes the problem I'm about to get into next. I don't know how bad the internet works right now. So, okay. So here's this video.
Rare footage of Daigo
That's a little
actually
grainy.
angry.
Long time ago. So,
Justin's turtle style. Overcome Rao. Now on the verge of putting Daigo down 1-0.
so how many people actually knew what happened just then?
Block all the kicks.
But how did he block those kicks?
By pressing, it's called parrying. You have to press forward at the exact right time when she's kicking, or else he would have died on one extra hit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how is a new player supposed to know how to do that?
Watching that video like 100,000 times.
You can watch the video as much as you want, but if you don't know the actual inputs for it, that doesn't really mean much. So, me and another person who I stream with, we've actually had quite a few discussions on this topic actually, about how to get past, like how to get past the kind of invisible wall. You buy a game, you start playing it. If there's a single player mode, you play through it, you beat it. You kind of feel a little confident because you're like, all right, I beat the game. You know, I think I want to go see what it's like playing online. First match you get into. First match I got into playing Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Start the fight. All of a sudden I get thrown. and then 3 people come through, send me all the way to the top of the screen, I fall down. I'm like, all right, 75% of my health is gone. That's cool, I can manage this. Does it again, I'm out. I'm like, all right, round 2, same thing happens. How am I ever supposed to get to that point where I can actually fight against those people like that? It's kind of a little bit the same way with Smash 4, except there's more of a lag problem causing that. But my thing is, I'm kind of curious as to if we actually took the route where a specific organization managed a specific genre. So say the XYZ organization manages fighting games. So they have ladders for all those fighting games, and they allow you to individually play in those ladders. You do your initial ranking matches like you do in like League of Legends, and then all of a sudden you're playing against people who are your ranking. Is that necessarily a bad idea, or should someone, I honestly don't know what you would do if a system isn't in place to actually learn those techniques necessary to actually be able to play online or play in tournaments, because a lot of the tournaments seem to be single elimination. What does everyone think about that type of stuff?
It's really the difference between like your gamers and like your casual gamers, like your hardcore gamers. As soon as I pick up a game like The Division, once we played the beta, then I spent a week and a half looking up what people were doing, what everyone's anticipating, played on launch day for a few hours, and the next day before I even logged on, I was hitting YouTube and hitting forums to see what people were doing, what direction they're going, how to build your character, just learning a little bit of the map, stuff like that. I think it's just, you get used to going through, you just hit YouTube and Twitch and watching people who got some experience on it. It's kind of like, professional sports and coaches.
Right.
And you have these guys that can get together, even your little leagues teams, they've got a coach to teach you how to catch the ball and hit the ball.
Right. Okay.
It's kind of like you said, like there's a lot of ways to kind of learn the mechanics, like the difference between a casual player and like a competitive player. There's a lot of things in the internet, like streamers and like pro players and all these things. I mean, you can look up, like, if we're gonna talk about fighting games, it's like, okay, you can go online and you'll be like, all right, I'm gonna look up this combo, and then you're gonna do it, but that's not gonna make you really good at the game.
Right.
So it's like something that there's a competitive player that a lot of you may know, the Street Fighter, he's Alex Valle, and he there's something that he says that I think makes a lot of sense. Like if someone's having like trouble like learning a game, a fighting game, or any game really, the best way to like, learn a new game is to learn it with another beginner, because then that's where you find things that are fun. That's where you guys learn mechanics together, and that's where you guys can understand like, oh, this is unsafe. You learn all these things together.
Right.
But I mean, some people don't really have that luxury. And then there's things, that's why there's things like Twitch, there's things like, there's things like YouTube, all these things that can help you go from a casual player to a more competitive player.
Right.
Well, it all comes with practice too.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, with League, I've been a carry man, and back a while ago, I had this biggest struggle with last hit. Right? So I dedicated like weeks in just bots. Just like
Okay.
I like that also. I do think you learn best with a beginner, as if you're a beginner yourself. Because like I drove a friend into Dota 2, which is like League of Legends.
Yeah.
But, like we both started out like complete morons. Like we would like throw spells on our teammates for no reason, or just like run around do nothing. But like eventually we got into like competitive though, and like learned how to play the game properly. Yeah, watching pro players.
Right. So it kind of goes back to, or it kind of reminds me of the other person I stream with. His name's Lodum. He plays Zelda. Like that's his name for whatever reason. And the first time I got Forward Ladder, I was really confused because you get hit up and then you get hit off. And then all of a sudden, I knew to prepare for that, so I started to do a lot of different things in terms of my counters, because like I said, I'm playing Ike, and I knew that in order for Ferrer's Win to actually hit me, it has to actually go through a really long animation. So my Ike would essentially stick to Zelda as she was in the air, and then all of a sudden, he started to get really good with towing me. It wasn't very fun the first few times because I felt like I felt all of the damage go from Ike to me off the stage that quick. But, like we said, fighting with him and kind of learning those things as we progressed kind of made things a whole lot easier. Now, he knows the exact percentage for killing me with Ferrar's ladder, which apparently is 75%, which is definitely not cool. But at the same time, I also know that if I delay my moves, he won't guard against, or he'll guard against me doing nothing. And when he comes out the guard animation, I can fight him. Because he knows that once I approach him, I typically tend to attack him. If I just stop, guard, comes out the guard, and that's it. So I like that idea. I like the idea of being able to play with other people that are around your level, which is kind of why I really want ranking systems to be a lot bigger in some of the games, especially like Smash 4, because I think there's an elo system. Some people say there's an elo system, but you really can't tell most of the time when it comes down to it, because you can be in a lobby with one person, be evenly matched. Next person comes in, you're like, oh, well, this isn't any fun.
I think, yeah, like you said, like it's much more fun to play against people like, you know, as beginners, other than like, you know, like you can learn playing against a pro, but you're not having fun doing it.
Right. So, that's one of the things that we're also, okay. That's one of the things that my group is actually doing. We actually have an elo system for Smash 4. People will come into the stream, they fight on stream, everyone watches. Some people give constructive feedback. Some people like to troll, but not all that much. Because in the end, everyone understands that it's a learning environment. It's not something where millions of dollars on the line if I win this fight. It's more of a, all right, I see where I'm getting, or I see what I'm doing, I see how I can get better, I see this guy who's consistently winning, I'm gonna see what he's doing and go from there. Okay, so moving on to League. League, climbing the ladder, it's a very organized system. I really, really like the system. It used to be ELO outright, but with the addition of league points, it kind of really gives you an incentive to actually get better. You can see where you're getting better. You can see where you're starting to fall off. It's really nice. But a lot of the stuff that League does, like you mentioned earlier, it's limited to Riot and their own construction. I've seen a few sites where they're like, all right, you come here and you can build a team, or come here and you can kind of figure some stuff out. And you're like, but this site doesn't necessarily seem like it's all that well put together or all that completely legit. And then the other thing with that too is, I know a lot of people try to organize a lot of different things. They try and organize online tournaments, things like that. But if Riot doesn't sponsor it, it doesn't seem to gain, or it doesn't seem to gain all that much traction. What do you think people can do to kind of like fix that and kind of make it so that if Riot doesn't necessarily do it, but someone else comes up with an idea, they can actually build something out of it?
That's the question I'm getting.
Yeah.
We run into a lot of trying to organize League of Legends events and even like Magic the Gathering events.
Right.
And just playing locally, it's tough unless you get Riot's attention to sponsorships on it. It's hard to drive those players, and you also run into a lot of accountability with online games.
Right.
So you have to make sure both teams are being honest about who won, who lost, and you have to be able to run jurisdiction over that if Riot's not involved.
Right.
And the biggest thing that I'm trying to do is just kind of do local first and really drum up like face-to-face interaction with people and let them be kind of the word of mouth to spread out.
Oh,
And that's been it's happened so far.
very nice, very nice. So anybody else got anything on that?
Well, could you get like a really big name YouTuber to like help you like promote the events? Has that happened already? I don't know.
That's really kind of weird because I feel like Riot gets like first choice on those types of things.
Oh, so they already got the YouTuber.
Right, like I know a few months ago they actually brought in all the content creators for lead stuff, and they just kind of put them in a room together and said, go make stuff. I don't know many people who can afford to do that, at least around here. But at the same time, giving people who might be starting that type of stuff a chance to actually get some experience on a local level would be really great. You just gotta have the local events. So, I'm saying, you are a very interesting person.
Are there any like local tournaments?
Well,
Well, there's one at Hampton.
right.
Yeah, there's one here, MSC, Milwaukee, they do a bunch of both.
Isn't there like a place on 27th Street that's like an online dating place?
There's a couple. I know there's Binary, 42 Ale House, 42 Lounge, and there's a couple of internet cafes.
Yeah. So I guess it will be more of trying to figure out who can be at the internet cafe or trying to organize whether or not you have Skype active so you can see what everyone's doing in their rooms while they're playing, stuff like that.
The best example of a local tournament I've seen so far was MSO. He did the LMLKE tournament last year. That was surprisingly what it turned out.
Nice. All right. All right. I don't honestly know what time it is because I want to keep you guys. Okay. All right.
As you said there with HorizonLine, you mean?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, in terms of esports organizations, just what do you expect out of one? I know you see people or see teams like Team Liquid, Ninjas in Pajamas, things like that. But what would you expect out of a team that was just kind of like managing content for a specific game? Like I know that at this point it kind of sounds like I'm asking questions specifically for my purpose, but I'm still kind of interested in like what everyone else has in mind for that. Like, is it just going to be a team, or are they going to be organizing a lot of different events as time progresses, or are they going to manage everyone else playing in that specific area? Anything at all? All right. Honestly, I kind of feel like a team should do that. Again, I went to PAC South, and Team Liquid was apparently managing all the things behind the scenes for the Smash 4 tournament. It's like, well, that actually kind of makes sense because if they actually have players playing in a tournament, they know how these tournaments should be set up. They should have a hand in actually making sure that the tournament works the way that it should work. And they were also working with Geico Gaming too. So Geico had a resource at the convention that they could go to for kind of making sure that everything was running right. So it seems like a good idea. And if that's the case and you have actual teams starting to organize things, should they do more online content or should they do offline content or should they do a combination of both? I'm under the impression that there needs to be a combination of both because in all honesty, people won't know anything about it unless you actually see it in front of you. And we don't necessarily have computers in front of us all the time. So would a team, or would team jerseys, like something like this, be really good if people actually start walking around like they were Packers jerseys on? Or should there be like billboards for specific teams out because they're trying to let everyone know that we're here, that kind of thing.
I mean, I see a lot of teams now are doing like merchandise and whatnot, and kind of sponsor the team and make like little figures or something else. Looks like it helps spread the knowledge. Yes.
So how about you guys? Would anyone be interested in wearing something like that? Okay.
I think it'd be cool to have. I would wear
Makes sense. You?
I remember like I went to go see a movie a couple months ago, and someone was wearing a Cloud9 hoodie, and I was like, that's awesome, you know, because it's like the fact that teams have like merchandise and these things, like it makes it. It's like you said, it's like a really good way to put and to let people like, you know, get more involved with what's going on.
Nice. Yeah. Every time or every once in a while when I see a hoodie or a jersey in a place that's not like a convention, I'm like, oh, all right, that's kind of cool. And every once in a while, I look up what the jerseys actually look like. And I'm really close to buying a few of them every now and again because they kind of look pretty nice, and I like athletic wear a little bit.
That represent.
Right. So, okay. With that one, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. If there's anyone who wants to talk specifically about Smash 4 or any other games in general, you can stay here because I think we got a few extra minutes before the next panel is supposed to come in. Again, my name is Maurice Strikeout Sharp, and I'm with HorizonLine Gaming. So look out for us. We're on Twitch at Strike Alpha, YouTube on HorizonLine Gaming Network, and I'll be in tournaments later today and throughout the weekend. I'm still trying to figure out some other stuff that I'm going to try and do, but otherwise, if you're also interested in possibly participating in some content later on involving potentially being in other tournaments later or doing some things with League of Legends in terms of like a Twisted Tree Line League or Summoner's Rift League, I got a notebook here. Please sign up, or at least let me know what your name is so I can at least add you and have an idea as to who might be interested that I've met that I really need to keep in contact with. So, that being said, thank you for showing up.
I'm still sad that it's gone.
No one likes
Tom, what?
I'm sorry, I'm like, I spotted you. For
No, he really was.
I'm just aesthetic.
I'm just a
Maybe
reason.
people-
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm actually an ADC main, and he's actually one of the few people I will use as an ADC when I would feel really, really on it. And a friend of mine gave me an actual Urgot build that actually kind of scares the hell out of me.
It's sub-bruisery, but the squishies just die.
It's more along the lines of there's a lot of on-hit stuff, there's a lot of damage reduction, there's a lot of armor.
So land that poison and living crap.
Right, because
Let's just be annoying.
it's like a miniature exhaust every time you hit someone. So if you teleport into a team,
Plus reduction of damage, which means, hey, tanks survive longer.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I'm just.
They
Yeah.
only change.
I figured. Did more people come than? Oh.
They like,
Is this your badge?
yes.
You need to stamp it so you can get your reimbursement.
yeah.
Oh, so that's how it works?
Yeah.
Okay, cause like I was like wondering, cause like, I think somebody posted in like the forum, like, I don't know.
Are they ready?
Okay.